United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. Okay, Deputy Clerk Piper, let the roll call show everyone is present. And we'll move on to the approval of the City Council meeting minutes for May 13th, 2024. Councilmember Bogert.
I will motion to accept the minutes as presented.
I'll second.
Any discussion? Okay, Deputy Clerk Piper, on page 5, about 3/4 of the way down in that paragraph regarding the Westlake development, it says a reduction in the wetlands from 300 to 365 square feet. That should read a reduction from more than 3,000 square feet to 365 square feet. Any other discussion? All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Thank you. Actually, let me step back a little bit because we probably need a motion to approve the minutes as amended. So I'll look for that motion instead. Councilmember Mosier.
I move the minutes as amended.
I'll second.
Motion is second, and now, all those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Thank you. No bills this evening. We'll move on to an approval of the agenda for this evening.
Mr. Mayor, do we have to note the amended agenda? Or,
This is the agenda we were given, so this agenda is the official agenda.
I'll make a motion to approve the agenda.
Thank you.
A second.
A motion and a second. Any further discussion? All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes. Move on to approval of the consent agenda for this evening. The consent agenda includes the Farmers Market food truck rally, and the OAK-TAC agreement, the revised OAK-TAC agreement. You're looking for a motion for the consent agenda? Councilmember Kurtzwell.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I move the consent agenda as presented by the mayor.
I'll second.
A motion and a second. Any further discussion? All those in favor of the consent agenda, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Thank you. And we'll move on to public comment this evening. For those wishing to speak in public comment, realize there is a 2-minute time limit for the comment. Please state your name and address for the deputy clerk, if you would.
My name is Suzanne Martin from 602 West Lake Street. I learned the importance of No Mow May from Aaron and Ryan Cottengim. Then I did some research. Honeybees pollinate 80% of flowering plants and 130 varieties of fruits and vegetables. There are fewer honeybees due to loss of habitat, pesticides, disease, and competition. Honeybees are part of our food chain. Farmers and food companies rent honeybees to pollinate their crops. No Mow May is for allowing flowers to bloom in late winter, early spring due to the limited number of flower blossoms available in Michigan. Other municipalities recognize No Mow May by having residents and businesses register their address with the city. Then they can receive a sign to place outside at a pollinator garden. And we need to recognize the efforts of the Cottengims and the city of South Lyon for being environmentally discerning. Thank you for your time.
Thank you.
Hello, everybody. Ryan Cottengim, 601 South Lafayette. I'd like to start by thanking Councilperson Dilg for pushing to get No Mow May officially on the agenda. And I'd also like to thank Councilpersons Kurtzwell, Hansel, and Kivel for the conversations and debates we have personally had regarding this topic. These conversations are why we have been here for the past 2 years speaking in front of you. This council is proof that No Mow May does work and can do good on a large scale. Last year, during the No Mow May agenda discussion of the September 25th council meeting, the idea of installing pollinator gardens in South Lyon parks came to light. South Lyon Council last year made the decision to invest $20,000 in pollinator gardens here in our city. The pollinator garden the city is putting in, the garden that Councilperson Kivel said that would do more good than any of us can do, is being put in because of the conversation spurred around No Mow May. Without No Mow May, without South Lyon being a topic on the news and in the newspapers, and without several of us from our community coming to council meetings and advocating about the good that No Mow May can bring through awareness, this amazing city garden would not be about to happen. Without No Mow May being allowed in our community as a conversation starter, it will also hinder more action like this from happening in the future. I hope you all really reflect on this tonight during the conversations you're about to have. There are several opinions that will be shared tonight attempting to debunk the positives of what No Mow May brings, most of them about long grass not helping or rodents. But I'd like to hear how you can try to debunk the fact that South Lyon made the decision to invest tens of thousands of dollars to support our pollinators because of the awareness that No Mow May brought to our city. That $20,000 investment is direct proof of the good that No Mow May can and did bring to our community. If there never was a conversation around our grass at the Hat and the attention it brought, I find it hard to believe that pollinator gardens would have been debated here in this room, let alone the action that came from it. That is all the proof you need that No Mow May worked. A simple planned inaction of not mowing for a month brought a positive result in our community through engagement and passion from our community members and this council. Thank you.
My name is Erin Cottengim, 601 South Lafayette. I'm here again to advocate for No Mow May. As a person that has conducted this No Mow May experiment for 4 years now, both at home and on my commercial property, I can tell you firsthand that my grass didn't die after cutting it again. It didn't attract mosquitoes or vermin, but it definitely fueled conversation and the planting of pollinator-friendly gardens. It has definitely attracted more pollinators to our properties. We saw flowers pop up that we didn't even know existed before we didn't mow. Many of these flowers are more than 8 inches tall or needed the tall grass to shade them enough to go into bloom, like the creeping buttercup. In the end, it's only a few weeks to gain attention for the pollinators on our private property. There is no debating the attention that No Mow May grabs. If you reduce the initiative to Low Mow May only, then those flowers that bloom taller than 8 inches will never get the chance to bloom, and you'll be squashing the visual of not mowing. That's the attention grabber. That's the conversation starter. You'll be canceling some conversations that would have been and preventing the process from reaching its full potential. Like a plant in the garden, this initiative needs time to grow. It needs care and attention. Please proceed with that care in your heart as you consider this. Please don't rip it from the roots so that it never has the chance to come to its full potential before you really know what it is. What if it's exactly the flower you wanted in your garden? No Mow May isn't hurting anyone, and it's got proven positive effects that I have seen firsthand. This isn't blight nor neglect. This is a short-term, defined project on private property. My lawn has been mowed by June 1st each year and through the rest of the summer. I actually love to mow my lawns and keep them looking neat, but I understand that this impact, however small, is positive for our pollinators. Let it be up to the HOAs and the individuals to make this decision for themselves. No one is asking for the city to force people to participate, but I am asking you not to force people to mow during No Mow May. I appreciate the conversations that you have all had around No Mow May. It has come to the surface that the ordinances around lawn care are unclear, and now that you know that, it is up to you to clarify them. Kindly and respectfully, please
Thank you,
take
Mrs.
this
Cotton, Jim.
opportunity to update the ordinances in a pollinator-friendly way.
What does it take to make change in your community? No Mow May is a classic example of hard work that.
Excuse me. I need your name and address, please, for the clerk.
Danny Noble, 337 Whipple.
Thank you.
Thank you. What does it take to make change in your community? No Mow May is an example of hard work that it will take to engage with your local representatives to enact positive change in your community. There's a need to be able to listen closely, emphasize with your neighbors, and at the same time balance the need of environmental stewardship. B City, USA.
Thank you. Now close public comment, and we'll move on to a discussion of downtown with DDA Director Nate Mack.
All right, thank you, Mr. Mayor. Good evening, council. So first of all, we'll start with the farmers market. We have our first food truck rally taking place on Saturday. We've got 8 food trucks planned for the event. They're going to be in the street on Pontiac Trail. So the street's going to be closed from 10 Mile to Liberty for the farmers market from 7 a.m. to 3 p.m. The food trucks that we're going to have are Mr. Italy, Reno's Hot Dogs, Simply Spanish, Brava Empanadas, Blue Kuna, Barbecue, Kona Ice, Fuller Farms Donuts, and Bowie Coffee. I believe that's 8. So yeah, it'll be a good event. Still going to have the full assortment of vendors that you've come accustomed to every week. We're just adding a few more food trucks. So the flower baskets were delivered last week. I'm happy to see that those got up. It was a little bit touchy on whether they were going to be ready in time. So we're happy that they were able to be put up before the parade. And then on Thursday, June 20th, the DDA is going to be hosting a transformation strategy session from 4 to 8 p.m. This is going to help drive the long-range planning of the DDA as we begin to update the TIF and development plan. So yeah, with that, I'll be happy to answer any questions if anybody has them. Oh, can I briefly talk about for the redevelopment liquor license as well?
Sure.
So yeah, I got an email from Oakland County at 4 o'clock today because I had a question regarding, this was at your seat when you walked in. Number 2 on the second page of the affidavit. So in the original agenda, it had tax year 2021 showing 0, but it was actually 61,720. So that's the reason for this new a bit of information. And that just helps to determine the number of liquor licenses that we're able to receive through the redevelopment license. So, yeah, with that, I'll be happy to answer any questions.
Okay, thank you, Nate. Any questions for DDA Director Mack? Okay, thanks so much, Nate. Appreciate it. Moving on to the Fire Chief's report with Chief Thorrington.
Good evening, Mayor, Council. We are currently at 473 instances throughout the meeting today. We had a mutual aid recently with Lyon Township in a small commercial building, a roof fire, and then a mutual aid with Salem Township a couple days ago with a garage fire. We're fortunate to have a community of departments. We can work together with staffing and you know, make progress. So, we had an open house last weekend. It was a hit. Had great weather. I'd like to thank our vendors, our sponsors, and our volunteers. Brighton Fire for loaning us their burn trailer. Hamburg Fire for loaning us their smoke trailer. And then Katie, the Representative Slotkin's office, also made an appearance and visited us and walked around a little bit. And then lastly, our Fire Marshal Brad Moynihan was the one who really coordinated and set the whole thing up, did a lot of hours. And then we also have spray parks set for tentatively July 17th to August 14th. And that's weather dependent. So as we get closer, we'll announce those officially. But that's all I have.
Okay. Any questions for Chief Thorrington? Councilmember Bogert.
I had the pleasure of attending the open house. It was a lot of fun. It was really cool to see the active fire demonstration and also the little building where the kids could put out the fire.
Yeah, it's a lot of
really
fun.
neat.
Anyone else? We have a slight addition to Chief Thorrington's presentation. We have Katie Michalski here from Representative Alyssa Slotkin's office. She has a little information to pass along to the council here this evening and to the residents of the city.
I do. My name is Katie Michalski. I'm the Oakland County Field Representative for the Congresswoman. And every year, all U.S. House members participate in what's called the Community Project Funding Process. Each member of the House solicits project requests from their district, and 15 requests then are accepted and then move through the appropriations and budget process. And I'm here tonight to congratulate Chief Thorrington and the city of South Lyon on being accepted the proposal for a new fire truck in the amount of $924,000 as one of the 15 projects. So congratulations. I did want to share a little bit more information. It's not as simple. I wish it was as simple as me, coming by with a big check and handing it over and saying, go order it. But it doesn't work like that. So this project is actually part of the fiscal year 25 budget process. So there's a few next steps. This goes up to the Appropriations Committee. They look at all the projects that have been submitted across all House members. And we will know sometime between this fall and early 25 as to the standing of the project, if it's submitted or if it's accepted in full. Sometimes funding isn't always guaranteed, but I've never seen funding reduced for first responders. So again, the Congresswoman and her team, including myself, are happy to continue to fight and advocate for this project for the city of South Lyon. We've had many discussions about the need for a new truck for the fire department. So again, this is the very first step in a very long process for the federal fiscal year 25 budget. But we will be here to answer any questions that the chief has, that city council, that the mayor has. And again, we'll work with you as we move through this process. So again, we'll know more toward late summer, early fall, and keep you updated on those steps. But I wanted, it's a very competitive process. Over 50 proposals were submitted to the Congresswoman for her consideration. So to be one of 15 is pretty incredible. So congratulations again. And we'll be with you every step of the way. Thank you.
Thanks, Katie, and please extend our gratitude to the Congresswoman. That's absolutely fantastic information, so thank you again. Chief, just a second, if you have anything else that you'd like to add. Here's the challenging part about this. This announcement came out on Friday that these funds were available. And you had all the way until Monday to get your paperwork together and apply for this. So I know, you were extremely nimble, the folks you had helping you, whatever, to get that paperwork in, get it submitted, and get it into the process like that. So do you have anything you want to add to what Katie has said, or any background information you want to share?
No, we've been looking at fire trucks for quite a while. Engine 2 is old, now dated, needs to be replaced. So a lot of the stuff was already kind of in place, at least the knowledge part of it. So we just had to put it together. So,
Like I said, the time was extremely brief. So great job, Chief.
thank you.
Thank you very much. Katie, thank you, and thank the Congresswoman as well for us. Thank you so much. Move on to the police chief's report tonight with Chief Bakke. See if he can top this one.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Thank you, Council. I did get a grant for $900 for a training, one of our supervisors, right? 900's 900, so I was able to get that. I just got approved that through MMRMA. I just wanted to update a little bit on the monument, the First Responders Monument. I had the opportunity to talk to Jeff Hance over at Superb Fabricating, and we do have a set of plans, but now there's in discussion some of the engineers to complete the plans and some more material discussion. So I'm really hoping that this gets done real soon as far as to get them into safe build so we can start the project. As my understanding, I spoke with Patricia the other day. We're up to about $37,000 for that project. So I'm hoping once we get that done, I can get it over to safe build and we can start that real soon. Memorial Day Parade went off without a hitch again. I'd like to thank everybody, all the volunteers and people at the VFW. They did a great job. Had a few gaps in the parade, but again, it all comes out to down in the honoring our vets, and it was a really a nice event to have and to honor our South Lyon vets for that. What else do I got here? And I think lastly, I'd like to comment is we have a new addition to our police department. Angela, if you can step up here for me, please. So Officer Angela Bay started with our department last year around November. She was cadet. We sponsored her. She went through the Oakland Police Academy 4 months. 4 months through the academy, and she just was sworn in. She graduated on the 23rd, Thursday. We got a hold of her and brought her here and got her sworn in on the 24th, and she's working right now for us as an officer. So I'd like to congratulate you and welcome to the city of South Lyon. And if you please, go ahead and introduce yourselves to the council. So this process here is.
Thank you, Officer.
Welcome aboard. Good to see you. Welcome aboard.
Welcome.
Thank you, Angela. We're really excited to have her. I got an opportunity to pin the badge on her at the event. Met her lovely kids and her husband and her mother-in-law. So it was very nice to meet them. So I just want to bring her down here and to introduce her to Angela. She is currently through the FTO program. She'll be assigned to days, and I think she's going to be going to midnights here in the next month, and then back to days for her final month of FTO. So with that, if you have any questions or comments, I'm here to.
Any questions for Police Chief Bocking? Councilmember Vogert?
How was the Lake Street cruise in?
It was good. So we had, I had my lieutenant stay over and kind of hang out to see what the parking situation is. So some of the citizens had some issues with the blockage of that. My understanding is they were able to escort one of the individuals into their driveway without any incident, and they were happy. So as far as I know, everything went well. We're monitoring the traffic flow to make sure that we get the people that live on that block to their homes. So for now, it went well. As far as I'm aware, he said everything went great. I was working with the organizers as well as Jeff Archie to make sure that there's even traffic flow when it comes to 10 Mile and Reese, and to make sure that the vehicles are able to get through there no problem. So it's a work in progress. We want to make sure that we're making everybody happy as best we can. So.
One other question. At a previous meeting, I had inquired about the radar speed signs
Yes.
downtown. Do
Yep.
you have info?
I do. So we're talking about the southbound speed sign just south of the tracks on Lafayette. So I do have some numbers that we gathered from that speed study. So between April 10th and April 23rd, when it was out deployed, there was a total of, this was just going south, 51,573 total vehicles. 31, just over, well, about 32,000 were, and this is going to kind of surprise you, but it's going to be out of speed, or speed violation. Okay, let's call it that, which is 61%. About 20,000, 38% were respecting the speed limit. That means that they're going maybe 1 to 2 miles an hour over. So, but the average speed there coming south is 26 miles an hour in a 25. So
That's good to hear.
So they're, for the most part, if they're speeding, it's only maybe 1 to 5 over. So,
Thank you.
yep, you're welcome.
Any other questions for Chief Bucky? Thank you very much, Chief, and welcome aboard. That's pretty close to a fire truck.
Yeah, there you go. Thank you. I appreciate it.
Thanks a lot. Moving on to unfinished business, tonight we have discussion of no mo may for the council members to share their comments on this particular topic. And I'll be looking to see who would like to start the discussion.
Would you like me to introduce the
Well,
subject?
go ahead, sure, Wade, go ahead.
Last September at City Council meeting, Council discussed the topic of no mo may. At this meeting, City Council discussed the pros and cons of no mo may, but could not come to any consensus or motion on how to proceed. At our last council meeting, it was requested to bring this item back on the agenda for further discussion tonight. We asked council tonight, possible discussions, if to have any additional discussions that we either brought up before, anything new. And right now, there is no suggested motion, but we will proceed based upon your discussions this evening.
Anyone would like to open the floor? Councilmember Kurtzwell.
I don't want to take too much time because I spent a lot of time doing research on this topic for the September meeting in 2023, and pretty much provided the factual counter arguments to No Mo May. And I think I started it out, I reviewed the tape this afternoon, and I'll sort of repeat kind of what I said then. I think the discussion of how we are stewards with our environment is an important discussion to have, both as individuals and residents of the city of South Lyon, and both as policymakers. And I think that as policymakers, you know, we have an opportunity to provide a quality of life, which includes that relationship with how we respect nature, how we deal with issues such as our wetlands, how we deal with maybe endangered species that may habitat our particular community. And also, we balance that with the cultural dictates of those that reside in our community. For me, No Mo May, my opinion, has been driven by the facts. Being a master gardener and certified through Michigan State University, I've had an opportunity to speak with individuals throughout the country on the No Mo May concept and provided some information to City Council. Sorry it was a little late, but it was a busy weekend for me. And I first want to start with the information packet that came from Cornell University. Cornell University is a very well-known university in the state of New York. And Joella is the individual who put together the program, and I provided a website where you can go and listen to her talk about the benefits of No Mo May, which she recognizes as an interesting concept, which is a good starting point. But it is not a program of land management that at all is a benefit to bees. So if your argument is that No Mo May is a program, a social program of land management that benefits bees, you do not have your facts correct. And I would suggest that maybe you spend some time reading the information that's out there, because I think it's very important when you come before council insisting that a policy be adopted because you have an inclination or a good feeling about bees. I think you need to understand why No Mo May fails. No Mo May fails with respect to bees because all you are doing is providing maybe a temporary solution to a long-term problem. The long-term problem is providing habitat and nectar for bees beyond the 2 weeks that you don't cut your grass. So I think somebody had a very good comment today. That's like opening up a restaurant on May 1st and then closing it on May 15th and saying, we'll see you next year. That's not what you do to the culture of the bees. You provide a habitat all year round. I design pollinator gardens. I had the Cottontails over at my house on Monday. They saw a very sophisticated pollinator garden. And it is designed specifically to feed bees from March, April, May, June, July, August, and September, October, and I can even get into November. That is the kind of pollinator garden you want to put in. So if you're talking about why you don't want to mow your grass for 2 weeks in May because you want to benefit bees, you don't understand the problem that we are having with bees in this country. And I would strongly encourage you to spend some time with some of the research that's out there. No Mo May, just from a background, started in 2019. It started over in Britain, in the United Kingdom, and they started a program where they encouraged people not to cut their grass for a period of time. And bees were a secondary issue. The primary issue was England was losing its native flowers. So what they were trying to do was come up with a program to encourage people to engage in their native flowers and allow them to flourish in the countryside. The program then moved across the pond to Appleton, Wisconsin. And what happened in Appleton, Wisconsin is they also did a community project, and they had activists, No Mow May activists, that did a research paper which was eventually debunked scientifically. And so the Appleton research was actually retracted and pulled from the research market because it was found to have been filled with errors and false information. And I think that is the key to what is going on with this project, this No Mow May concept. Additionally, there is a great program with the University of Minnesota. University of Minnesota actually has a bee lab where, and it's a very reputable school, and they also have come out with their recommendation that there are other ways to benefit the bee population other than 2 weeks where you don't cut your grass. So my personal feeling is that this is an interesting narrative, an interesting concept. It's good for people to be talking about how we relate with nature around us. But I think the focus was then, and I think it still is now, is that No Mow May is to benefit the bee population. That narrative is not correct. So I would encourage those individuals that are pushing that commentary to please spend some time, read the research, understand it, and come with a more permanent solution to the problem rather than a temporary solution 2 weeks in May. Additionally, there is the thing that, which I did not discuss with the two of you on Monday, is there is the issue of carbon sequestration. Carbon sequestration is a theory, an argument, it's not a theory, I think it's pretty well factual, is that we have carbon emissions that are occurring in the atmosphere, and these carbon dioxide emissions are creating greenhouse gases and contributing to climate change. So No Mow May is really a climate change sort of agenda. And one of the tiers of it is not only protecting bees, but it is also to, their argument is if we quit cutting our grass, then we will not be putting carbon into the atmosphere through the gasoline on our lawnmowers. And they seem to think that 6 inches of grass will be able to sequester enough carbon in order to significantly influence carbon gases. That's not true. I have spent 2 years now researching this issue, and nobody, including those who have come to the microphone tonight, have been able to point to me to any research that says that not cutting your grass in your lawn contributes significantly to a reduction of greenhouse gases. However, there are projects out there that are engaged in containing or sequestering carbon, and some of it is done geologically, storing carbon underground, and then there are other programs that are going on through the United States forestry, which are planting tall grasses in acres, in fields, large fields, where the grasses are specifically being bred or hybrided to absorb more carbon. And when a plant absorbs carbon, it uses that carbon to assist in photosynthesis, or it carries it into the soil and provides nutrients into the soil. Carbon sequestration on my property is done through pine trees. I have 3 pine trees on my property. Pine trees are known for sequestration of carbon. If you go onto a highway, you'll see a substantial amount of what's called Austrian pines that are planted along. Well, there's a reason why, because the Austrian pine is very tolerant of pollution, and it's very capable of sequestering that carbon that comes from the traffic on the highways. So you can engage in carbon sequestration by just planting pine trees on your property. White pines are the predominant sequestration pine tree that at least I read today. So on my property and on another garden here in the area, which is fairly substantial, which is a major, major pollinator garden, have been able to assist the pollinator population. I've been able to sequester carbon through the use of pine trees on my property and comply with the city ordinance and keep my grass cut at the level that is appropriate. So that is the balance. If you want a pollinator garden, then put in a pollinator garden. But don't argue that you don't want to cut your grass for 2 weeks because you're helping the bees, because that is not the correct narrative that you should be talking about. And also, I would like to say that there have been many individuals in the city who have been active in pollinator gardens long before the Cottingales came around. They're great people. We had some great discussions. I applaud them for coming forward. They're a new generation of individuals that at their age are, understanding the necessity of this relationship. But many of us who are quite older have been raised from an agricultural background where our relationship with the soil and with the land has pretty much been with us for generations. So we grew up with composting. We grew up with pollinator gardens. We grew up with a lot of these things that some in the newer generation are just now discovering. So I think that we owe a lot of people in this community a lot of credit for the work that they've done and very quietly have gone forward with the agenda of dealing with endangered species such as bees. I, number one, am also working on an endangered project with the monarch butterfly, which is about to be recognized nationally. So I do have that good connection with the environment, but I think there's also an ability to balance it with the ordinances that we have in the city, and for those reasons, I am not in favor of no May, just because the agenda is incorrect, it's not factually based, and I am approving the example, a living experiment that you can have both the ordinance and a very, very lively bee population on your property almost 7-8 months out of the year. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, Councilmember Kurtzwell. Councilmember Dilk.
Thank you. I seriously appreciate all of that information from Councilmember Kurzweil. As she knows, this is not my fight because I am terrible at any kind of gardening. But I do think there's a couple things that I think we could do. I think that some of the ordinance enforcement seems to be maybe a little aggressive. I think that maybe we could do some registration and some education if people are very interested in the no mow May topic. If people registered and we could help do some education like Councilmember Kurzweil just did, I think that could be very helpful and could maybe strike a balance between not doing no mow May and doing it. I think if nothing else, we should clean up that ordinance a little bit because it is very confusing. The one that talks about the first half of May and the last half of September. But I wanted to just make sure that this kept coming up, so I wanted to make sure we got it on the agenda, made a clear, some kind of decision. Yes, we're going to go forward with something. No, we're not going to. Or is there some other thing that we can do? So that's all I have, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, Councilmember Dill. Councilmember Hanson.
I'd like to echo what Councilmember Dilg said. I think that though, the science and research might not showcase a direct correlation to helping the bee population, I do think it starts a conversation. And, cleaning up the ordinance, that's definitely one area of action that we could take. If we were to allow no mow May, it'd be my opinion that, having residents register and maybe pay a minimal fee so that the fee revenue could go towards replanting our pollinator gardens every year would definitely be something that I would, love to explore. And, showcasing signage, that, they were participating would, help spread the word and create a dialogue and a conversation. I do think something possibly more direct that we could take action on would be to expand our tree city status in giving away to residents, a white pine tree that they could plant in their yard. Additionally, maybe, instead of putting more money towards additional pollinator gardens for, the following budget, perhaps we could look into additional monies to give away seeds to residents that wanted to plant their own garden on their property. Finally, what I do think that a minimal thing that we could do as a city would be to have literature available for residents to showcase the benefits of pollinator gardens and helping, curtail not only climate change, but also help the bee population in that regard. And that would be something that would be probably minimal cost to showcase some of the education topics on ways that they can, on their own property, have an impact. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, Councilmember Hanson. Councilmember Bogert.
First, I'd like to thank Aaron and Ryan for all that they do in the community. It's amazing, all of the events they host, all of the programs that they support. And NOMO May has been a great opportunity to start this discussion about what we can do for our community. I do have some concerns regarding NOMO May, which I'd like to share. The perceived environmental benefit to not mowing the lawn for a month is immediately negated once mowing resumes. The gas and emissions that are saved from not using lawn equipment is only deferred until it would be deferred, as it will likely take multiple passes to reduce the lawn to a manageable height. It's not a sustainable action. Any insects and animals that may have benefited from the enhanced microclimate will be displaced, whereas sowing a flowering ground cover, such as clover, or planting a pollinator garden would have an ongoing benefit throughout the growing season. As I shared in my statement in the last meeting, the benefit of clover is manyfold. And as a matter of fact, this is a bag of clover that I purchased from Lowe's for $20. I'd be happy to give it to anyone who's interested in planting it in their garden or in their yard. Finally, it creates an opportunity for those who do not care for the environment or for the upkeep of their property to use NOMO May as a means to defer any action by the city to address blight. Blight is an issue that adversely affects communities in many ways, which is why the city has ordinances. Having mentioned the above, I do appreciate the intention behind NOMO May and hope that the discussion this evening will uncover less divisive ways that the environment can be served. I, for one, would be willing to support a slow mow May, where yards are mowed at a higher deck height to ensure that clover and dandelions can maximize their flowering. It seems to me that a lot can be done while respecting the 8-inch limitation in the city's ordinance. Yeah, that was it. I do have a question for the city manager, though. In a recent communication with Aaron, it came to light that they were cited on April 30th. Is that correct?
They were not cited. They were given information by our ordinance officer, and they were not issued a ticket. We have not, for mention regarding strict enforcement, we have not issued one ticket regarding no mow May or for tall grass. Okay. We've gotten people to come in compliance. Our ordinance officers had multiple visits. I know they met with them, went through explaining some issues relating to fines, relating to the ordinances. There's two separate ordinances. There's one which is our city ordinance, and then there's a property maintenance ordinance that the ordinance officer followed. And that's what was initiated, and from my understanding, they did comply, so there has not been any kind of enforcement, no tickets were issued, no court fines or fees or anything like that.
Okay. Thank you for clarifying. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilmember Bogert. Councilmember Mosier.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I do agree with Lisa that we do need to work on that ordinance. It's very, very vague. But I also think that this year, since we had such a warm winter, early spring, everything was growing exponentially. So by the time May rolled around, it was already pretty tall. And thank you, Maggie, for the extra information you gave us today. I thought it was incredibly enlightening. I didn't know about bee lawns, for one. I did know about clover lawns, and I think that's probably gonna be a little more acceptable to, I don't know if HOAs would approve that, because I think people that live with an HOA, they want finer bladed grass, but my neighbor has a clover yard, but he mows it quite often, but he gets little flowers in there, so I don't think no mow may is the answer. It's just, it's not clear that it's real beneficial, in my opinion. So that's all I have, thank you.
Thank you, Councilmember Mosher. Councilmember Kivel, did you have anything you want to add?
Actually, the only thing that I would suggest is that I would like us to amp up our putting gardens into our own properties to try to bolster things that we can. It's not a terribly expensive investment, and obviously the need is really pretty helpful, so that's all.
Thank you, Councilmember Kivel. I have just a couple of things I'd like to add. First, I want to thank all the council members for their input and so forth, but I've made the comment previously that No Mow May is a feel-good effort, as stated by the Michigan State Extension Service. Okay, it doesn't provide the benefit that people think it provides. Councilmember Kurtzwell has referenced the study from Cornell University, and I'll just share some of the other facts that went along with this study. The extreme mow after May would remove more than 1/3 of the grass tissue in a single event, which goes against basic grass mowing recommendations, and it may cause plant shock and death. Lawn phosphorus runoff increases as lawn maintenance decreases. The original study worked off a list of 26 flowering plants in the UK. That's where this study came from originally, which in the UK, this is a totally different environment, climate-wise, than we have here in the United States, different than what was in Appleton, Wisconsin, totally different than what's in this southeast Michigan. They have about a 20 or 30 degree differential between summer and winter. We run at about 60 to 70 degree differential, summer to winter. The original study worked off a list of 26 common flowering plants in the UK. 19 of those flowers are in at least one state invasive list in the United States. 7 are listed as invasive in the state of Wisconsin, where that Appleton study took place. And none of the 26 are native to the United States to begin with. Honeybees, in addition, the targeted beneficiary of the original experiment, are not native to the U.S. Other native pollinators may be more abundant and benefit from different environmental management. We've talked a little bit about the ordinance being unclear. I'd recommend that we clear up the ordinance and make it very clear. I think it should be in alignment with the contract that we negotiated with GFL. GFL picks up yard waste beginning with the first full week of April, and it stops picking up yard waste in the second full week of December. Grass that's over 8 inches high during that time frame would be in violation of the ordinance. That'd be my recommendation on it, so that people can decide how they want to dispose of their clippings and so forth. In addition, we see people that let the lawns grow long, and what happens in that situation is it encourages animals to nest in that lawn, in that long grass. Basically, the people doing that are baiting the animals with a false sense of security to set up habitats in the area before coming back and running the mower over them 2 or 3 weeks later and killing them. And this includes rabbits, frogs, birds, and so forth. And I think I actually saw a picture posted on one of the Facebook sites showing that. But in actuality, you encourage them to come into the yard and set up home. We've talked a little bit about all the places that are involved with No Mow May. We got an email from the Cotton Gyms that talked about the 5 cities in southeast Michigan that are pursuing this. What we didn't get is the fact that those are 5 cities out of 156 in that area, less than 3%. That's really a call to action. So, again, the key part is it did start the discussion. And the discussion's important, because what it did do is it got us, Councilmember Kivel in particular, to think about pollinator gardens. It actually got the cotton gyms to think about pollinator gardens, and they are converting that grass into pollinator gardens. That is the appropriate solution. It's a long-term solution, not a short-term feel-good solution. It provides ongoing nutrition for the pollinators. And we thought enough about it. We made the investment on behalf of the citizens for $20,000 to perpetuate that. Letting the grass grow long is not the answer, and there's no shortage of facts and data to substantiate it. That's all I have. Anybody else have anything to add? Councilmember Kurtzwell?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, for that summary, because I think you summarized a lot of the data that did come out of the Cornell research. And I think that's important, is understanding the data. And these are individuals with PhDs. They're not activists. They're serious researchers who are out there looking for answers to some very complicated questions. I do want to quickly address the issue that Councilmember Bogart brought up, and that's with the clover. Don't confuse a pollinator garden with a bee lawn. Those are two different issues. A pollinator garden deals with tall plants, basically, with nectar for the bees. A bee lawn is a lawn that is designed for bees to nectar on throughout the growing season of your grass. If you really do the research into bee lawns are made up of dandelions and clover. And those two plants can be mowed over with absolutely no hindrance to the actual structure of the clover that's in the grass. That's why clover is recommended to go into your lawn as a substitute for the no mow May, let's let our grass grow. You don't have to let your grass grow if you want to feed the bees. All you have to do is convert your grass to a clover yard or patches of clover, and you will have solved the same thing. You can mow over it and still be in compliance with whatever ordinance that you have. I think also what I like what the mayor brought up is when you allow your grass to grow long, that's an important issue to understand, is that you are attracting other nature to nest in that tall grass. And I can't think of anything more harmful and more destructive to nature is when you deliberately go and you mow your grass and you are destroying life that is in there and nesting. There's an appropriate place for rabbits to nest, and it's not in your grass, and other animals. And for you to go into your yards and to deliberately and intentionally invade those habitats of those animals, to me, is a very destructive behavior and abusive, I think, to the wildlife that we all enjoy. So, but I do agree that this is a great opportunity to discuss our relationship that we have with the land and to respect all nature, regardless of where it comes from, and provide that balance so that we can all live together very peacefully, I guess. So, thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, Councilmember Kurtzwell. City Manager Zelnick?
So from discussions tonight, I think what we'll start to work on is the ordinance rewrite to make it more clear. I'll work with the city attorney in relationship to that, as well as kind of melding the two sections of ordinance that have actually been discussed. I think gathering materials also for potential on our website to not only just talk about no mow May, because I think it's a much larger picture. It is about pollinator gardens, which I'd like to bring up, that was actually brought up by Councilwoman Kurtzwell 3 years ago regarding putting pollinator gardens within our community, and for the last 2 budget years by Councilman Kivel, asking to incorporate that into our budget, and working over the past year, talking about what potentially we could do. But it is not just the pollinator garden, it's water supply, it's composting, it's recycling, it's less chemicals, it's native plants, it's habitat. There's a lot more to it in order that I think that we can all do in relationship to nature to, help out. And I think the $20,000 investment that we've talking about made with this year within the pollinator gardens, so we'll working on those plans. But I think the important thing is that we do what's right for the city of South Lyon, not just what Ann Arbor Royal Oak, Warren, Sterling Heights, or whatever. We're not like all those other communities. All those other communities don't necessarily have the acreage that we have within the volunteer park that's undeveloped, that we can potentially have a tremendous impact on something that maybe some of those other communities might not. But I think we tailored for what we think we need to do for our community. But what I'll do is start to gather some information and update council on a regular basis and moving this forward.
Thank you very much.
Could I?
Yes, Councilmember Gillis.
Could we get a better understanding of what the HOAs will tolerate as far as the clover in lawns? Could we get a better understanding of what they're?
I think some of those questions circulate on social media would help in trying to get input, because each one is different. Some people, do require, they don't want the weeds and they, the chemical treatments and things like that. And trying to gather that, we don't necessarily have all the copies, but we can start putting it out there and ask people to send them to us.
I'm just thinking they all have whatever their rules are, so, I mean, we should be able to get a piece of their rules and just kind of go through it, or ask the question directly, will you tolerate having clover?
Mr. Mayor, I just have one more
Councilmember
thing.
Dilk.
Thank you. I do love the idea of materials or informational information on the website that explains what we're doing and more information about how you can help. I would love to see Councilmember Kurtzweil do a little series on it, but she's got a lot of time on her hands. But it would be really nice to see something like that to, when I talked before about if people registered that wanted to do No Mow May, it would be really great, I think, even on social media and everything, to give people more information on what they can do. I even took some notes on what I can actually do in my lawn, so I think that would be really helpful. I like that idea.
Councilmember Kurtzwell.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Actually, Councilwoman Dill brings up a very interesting point. Maybe the Conninghams would be interested in being in a video in terms of how a pollinator garden is constructed, the thought process. I know I presented some plants, some suggestions of actually a pollinator garden in the works, of how you go about plant selection and why you made the selections you made. Maybe that would be the contribution, would be part of a video. We can bring somebody over and show everything and say, you too can also put together a pollinator garden. So it's just, well, no, you have to wait to public comment. Yeah, for public comment, but I'm just throwing that out there, that would be, since this is a pollinator garden that is in the works and actually being constructed, it would be kind of nice maybe to show the public how it's done. Just a thought.
Okay, thank you very much. Moving on to new business. Number 1, resolution for redevelopment liquor license at 228 South Lafayette Street.
All right, good evening. So yeah, this redevelopment liquor license at 228 South Lafayette Street is for a business that's going to be going into the former Third Monk Brewery location. The reason we're able to do these redevelopment liquor licenses is because we have no more Class C quota licenses available in the city of South Lyon. So this is a means for people that want to do a food and beverage business to allow them to purchase a liquor license at a reduced cost as opposed to what it would be purchasing one out of escrow. It's substantially cheaper than that. The resolution is before you this evening to basically say that the council would be recommending to the Liquor Control Commission that the licenses be granted to the city, and then we'd be able to give them out to the two businesses that we're going to be discussing for the resolution this evening.
Councilmember Hanson.
Mr. Mayor, I'd like to make the motion to approve the resolution to grant a Class C redevelopment liquor license to Waycaser LLC located at 228 South Lafayette Street, South Lyon, Michigan, 48178. This approval is made under Section 521A6C of PA 51 of 2006, as a proposed business is within the South Lyon Downtown Development Authority District.
I have a motion from Councilmember Hanson, a second from Councilmember Bogert. Is there any further discussion or questions for DDA Director Nate Mack? Deputy Clerk Piper, will you lead us in a roll call vote for this?
Yes.
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 Yes. Thank you. New business number 2, resolution of redevelopment liquor license at 127 East Lake Street.
So again, this is the same thing, except it's in the old Lake Street Tavern location. So this was going to be a brunch place. And yeah, it's going to, replace a business that decided to retire, so.
Councilmember Hanson.
Mr. Mayor, I'd like to make the motion to approve the resolution to grant a Class C redevelopment liquor license to Maple House LLC located at 127 East Lake Street, South Lyon, Michigan, 48178. This approval is made under Section 521A6C of PA 51 of 2006, as the proposed business is within the South Lyon Downtown Development Authority District.
Second.
I'm sorry, Councilmember Kurzweil, did you second that?
Yes.
Thank you.
Thank you.
So we have a motion by Councilmember Hanson, a second by Councilmember Kurzweil. Any further discussion for the DDA Director? Councilmember Bogert.
It's my understanding that the establishment will be a brunch place, correct?
Yes.
Will the hours of the business satisfy the 10-hour requirement for the liquor license?
As far as I'm aware, yes. Is that- Yes, they will. The applicant's right there, so.
Perfect.
Yep.
Thank you.
Yep.
Any further discussion? Deputy Clerk Piper, if you'll lead us in a roll call vote on this one?
Yes.
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 Yes. Motion carries. Thank you very much.
Thank you. If I could, Mr. Mayor, sorry. The other applicant is in the back row as well, so just so that you can put a face to the application. Thanks.
Welcome aboard. Looking forward to both businesses opening in the very near future, hopefully. Moving on to new business number 3, 26800 Pontiac Trail conditional rezoning, first reading.
Good evening, everyone. This is a request for a conditional rezoning for the parcel located at 26800 Pontiac Trail. The property is currently zoned R1A, Single Family District, and is currently Susie's Bar and Grill. The applicant is requesting to conditionally rezone to the O Office District for the construction of 2 office/commercial buildings. As a reminder, a conditional rezoning is different from a traditional rezoning. It entails a conditional rezoning agreement that, if approved, is entered into by the city and the applicant, and outlines the terms of the rezoning, including the voluntarily offered conditions, time limits of the project, and other terms. In addition, a conditional rezoning has a plan tied to it, which, if the rezoning is approved, no other use or site plan development can occur other than the plan that's attached to that rezoning. The city attorney and the applicant team have been working together to prepare a conditional rezoning draft agreement, which is included in your packets. I want to note that the agreement is included verbatim in the ordinance document that you're considering tonight, but the council will approve the agreement itself separately at a later date if the first reading is approved tonight. Listed in the draft agreement in our review letter are the conditions being offered by the applicant. They're offering as a condition of the rezoning a list of uses permitted in the O district that the property will not be developed with. These include restaurants and bars, banquet and conference centers, private clubs, hospitals, animal boarding establishments, funeral homes and mortuaries, and hotels and motels. Attached to the request and the agreement right now is a concept plan. The concept plan shows the general building layout, parking, building design, and other general details. If the rezoning is approved, the applicant will have to come back for final site plan approval with a full detailed site plan showing all required information, which would go before the Planning Commission for approval. The final site plan is required to be in substantial conformance with the concept plan, and as noted, the development of the property cannot be for any of the uses that they are excluding in the agreement. The conditional rezoning agreement also outlines the time limits for the development. As part of the agreement, the existing building on the site will be demolished within 150 days after closing of the sale of the property. The applicant is then proposing to develop the property in 2 phases. With the phasing, they are proposing an extended timeline for construction, which is outlined in the agreement. The zoning ordinance establishes a 2-year period following approval in which substantial construction must commence unless it is extended by City Council for good reason. The agreement outlines timing for site plan approval, Phase 1 and Phase 2, which if utilizing the full proposed timeline would result in the development being fully completed in 2029. I'll let the applicant elaborate more on the proposed project details and timeline and answer questions on that if necessary. Procedurally, there are 4 steps for the conditional rezoning process for the project. The first was the public hearing and review of the request by the Planning Commission, which occurred on April 25th, 2024. The Commission recommended approval to City Council. The project is currently at the second step, review and action by City Council on the first reading of the ordinance amendment, which is the rezoning request, and the associated concept plan. If approved tonight, it would come back for second reading by City Council and approval of the agreement itself. The applicant would then submit their full site plan for review and approval in conformance with the agreement and concept plan. Supporting documentation included in your packets include the draft ordinance amendment, review letters from planning, engineering, and fire departments, application materials, and the concept plan. And I have additional copies of the concept plan if anyone doesn't have theirs. There are 2 required motions with the item tonight. The first is the conditional rezoning first reading. The second is the concept plan itself. The applicant team is here tonight. I'm going to pass it off to Neil from Rand Construction, but I'm happy to answer any questions that you have for me.
Neil Ganshorn from Rand Construction, 1270 Rickett Road in Brighton, Michigan. Thank you for the time tonight, Mr. Mayor and council members. To give you a backstory, we've been looking for a parcel for a dentist office for the better part of a year. We ran out of any other reasonable options within New Hudson, Lyon Township areas, and this is the perfect area that we would like to put that place in. This parcel, being 3.7 acres, is a very large parcel with room for a dentist office and more. So that's how we came to this concept plan that you have in front of you. So we're proposing it to be in 2 buildings. The first building to be built would have at least half of it at this point being a dentist office. Thank you. Which Debbie is here, that would be owning that practice. And the rest of the space in that building and the adjacent building would be something harmonious to medical or professional office type settings, which is why we excluded a lot of those more, I don't know how to say it nicely, the more things that can provide more of a disturbance to the adjacent residential areas. We are understanding of being neighbors to the residentials, but also having a dentist office there and the expanding residential impact across the street and around that area is a very specific reason for that parcel to be valuable for them. So we feel it could be a benefit to the overall residential community, as well as provide a much needed shift from the non-conforming building and non-conforming site and non-conforming materials on the building that are currently on the parcel. So just an overview. I can definitely happy to answer all the questions you have.
Councilmember Dilk.
Thank you. I just had a couple questions. One was the exact same one it looks like they had at the Planning Commission meeting, and I did speak with Chair Lanham about some of the concerns about the timing, that it just seemed like a really long time.
So I can get right into that. I have the actual timeline itself on another page here. So basically, we are going through, right now, we've been 4.5 months to get to this point just for conditional rezoning. After that, we go through site plan approval. Assuming that we start today with this civil drawings, we'll already be 2 or 3 months behind on that. So they got 9 months to do site plan approval. After that, there's a whole lot of permits. So I made a small list of the permits that are required. The city engineer has to approve this, the building department. You need signage permits, the fire department, soil erosion permits, a county health department for the well that's on site. The city DPW needs to be consulted for the storm and new sanitary line that's gonna be put in, the county road commission, and most impactful of all is the Eagle Department of Natural Resources wetland impact. Because our ponds, just like as existing parcel is flowing their stormwater out to this drainage culvert, we will be doing the same, and to do that, to tie in or outflow into that requires that permit, which that alone can take 6 months or more. So that piece, just getting permits for the first building, and then based on wherever that, when we get all the permits, say it's November 15th and we're gonna be starting in the middle of winter when snow is flying. So we've given 15 months for the construction of either building and a shortened amount of permit time for the second building, because presumably we'll have a tenant ready and we'll be able to do that during the construction of the first building. So really, that's why you're seeing 27 months and 24 months. Really, it's 15 months of construction, because put some black bars in here, areas that you really can't build if the ground is not thawed. So really, if we have 6 months worth of winter, in our 15 months, we've only got about 7 or 8 months worth of actual building time to do site work, stuff like that, so.
Makes sense. And then, you are gonna start with the one building, and are you going to not build, the second building unless you get a tenant, or are you gonna build it and?
So we have to
Recruit.
build both buildings as part of the agreement.
Okay.
So that's a requirement of the agreement. The timing of them, ideally, we would love to sprint as fast as we can to start building this upcoming spring with both buildings. And hopefully, we're in a position to be able to do that. In which case, we'll be done in spring of '26 versus spring of '29. But with the way that these things, we're not in control of the timeline when it comes to the municipal approval stuff. I'd like to be realistic as much as we're optimistic, because we'd love to start right away, and if there's something that's holding us back into it, we don't want our city timeline to expire.
Right. And then, the last thing is, as far as recruiting a tenant, do you feel very confident about that?
We're
Or?
gonna start that right away.
Very confident.
All
There's
right.
a shortage of this type of space available in the city of South Lyon. My name is Mark Zerlag. I'm a partner with the Thomas Duke Company. We have many properties in western Oakland County, people that are looking for space, and there is a shortage of this type of quality development. And so we have people that very confident that we're going to be able to bounce down to this location.
Great, thank you. And I just wanted to say, I really love this. I really like the.
And just a clarification on the timeline, if we get the first building started in the spring, even if it's just one building, that starts that construction timeline, and the entire construction timeline condenses to that, just as soon as we get it done. So
Right.
it will only improve based on what you see there.
Awesome, thank you.
Councilmember Kivel.
You have a well there right now, so you won't be able to use that in the city. So are you attending to that quickly?
So there's gonna be a well for each building here, because it's not serviced by city water. So there is a plan, I guess in the future with the carriage piece over here, to extend that farther from the north to come down. I doubt that will intertwine with when we're gonna be starting. So our plan is to put a new well for both buildings, for each building. But it currently has a septic field on site. We're planning to attach those with a force main back to an existing stub that was brought out from the carriage trace development. We've been in discussions with the city engineers about that.
So there was mention of a stub from the carriage trace. Why isn't it that you are obligated to end up getting into?
So there is not one currently. So with the development, I think it's phase 5 or something like that of carriage trace. If that were to move forward while we're working or in the same time that we're gonna be out there doing that, then we'd be able to pick that up. Otherwise,
Okay.
it's several hundred feet.
All right, I misunderstood that part, yeah, all right, thank you.
We'd love to. I mean, if the water was there, we'd absolutely prefer that.
Councilmember Hanson?
Just a quick question. With the increase of hybrid plug-in vehicles as well as electric vehicles, has there been any consideration as far as maybe a vehicle charging setup?
We haven't gotten that far into it yet, but I'm sure that's gonna be part of the building development process.
And this is a question maybe for the city manager. So obviously, Susie's Bar and Grill will no longer need their liquor license, and a dentist office doesn't need a liquor license. What will happen to that liquor license? Would that be available for a business to get a potential discount similar to the previous ones we approved tonight?
I'd have to check for sure, but I believe they would be able to take that license with them.
Oh, okay.
It is theirs.
I figured I'd ask.
Yeah, we are not planning on purchasing that business.
An
Councilmember
interesting
Kurtzwell?
concept for a dentist office, but.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Mayor. I just want to make sure, where I see the ponds, you are creating the retention ponds?
That's correct.
Okay, because those are not existing wetlands there, if I'm not mistaken.
There's a wetland
Wetland?
line that's pretty far back. There's a green line, if you see it on yours.
Right, but that's the carriage, that's over in Lyon.
That's in the, this is a 100-foot drainage easement, and that's the intermittent stream or creek or whatever you want to call it.
Yeah, that's the drain,
That's correct. That's a delineated wetland specifically.
but it says the edge of the wetland.
Correct. So the other side of the wetland is kind of the other side of that stream. So it's, in some areas towards the southern side, the wetland extends a little bit farther out. And yes, it's wooded back here, but
Yeah.
we've had a wetland consultant go out and actually flag the actual edge of the wetland.
Okay.
To make sure we know exactly where it is, so we're not impacting it.
I was just going to say, because I don't see where there is any impact into that.
We would just be outflowing, because they have to have an ultimate outlet. If this, either these ponds were to overflow, they need to be able to overflow into the next thing. And usually it's the municipal system. If
But
we
you
were
don't
out-
have a municipal system.
Correct. This is the municipal system that you guys have in this.
So the only impact in the wetland is to construct the ponds,
The pipe,
to put a pipe in, it's kind of like a French drain.
that's correct.
Okay.
Yeah, so instead of it now sheet draining off of this site, it will be in 2 point sources.
And then feed into that Lyon drain and back into that area there. Okay, just want to make sure. And as to I'm just curious, as to the doctor, the dentist that's going to be moving in, is she a sole practitioner, or is this a practice, or? Okay, is it a practice? Do you have other dentists that are coming in? Okay,
Not currently, just I'm a sole practitioner.
okay. So you will be occupying 6,200 square feet yourself?
Half of the 8,000 currently, so 4,000 square feet.
So you'll be occupying 4,000 square feet yourself? How many other dentists would be able to move into that space? Or are you not interested in building the practice, or what? I'm just,
Maybe, I think, we can have an associate and quickly, but,
You want to come to the microphone so we can hear you and record you on the tape, if you would? Give us your name and address also, if you would, please.
My name is Baby Kapoor, and my address is 47673 Alpine Drive, Novi. And I would be a sole practitioner at the moment. And then in the future, as the practice grows, I can have an additional associate come in as need be.
okay. Well, thank you for coming out here to South Lyon.
Yeah, no problem.
I think this is very well needed. I'm sure you've had an opportunity to look at the area.
Yes, definitely.
And clearly, a dental practice on that end of town, on the north end of town, where all the development is right now.
Yes.
It'll be very, very welcomed. Yes,
I
very
hope so.
welcomed. Yes, yes, it will be. You're currently practicing as a dentist?
I am, yes,
Ok-
I'm
ok-
an associate with another partner.
Oh, I see, you're an
Yeah.
associate, so you're gonna move out on your own.
Yes.
Okay, okay, now I get it. Okay, all right. Well, good luck to you then.
Thank you so much.
Councilmember Vogler?
One thing that I didn't see on the map is where the original septic field is. Can you point out where that?
Yep, it's just, I don't know if the existing building is a little bit farther set towards Pontiac Trail. It's right behind current Susie's Bar. There's also one back here that's for the hotel, and that has since been tied in via a force main, a 2-inch force main. So ideally, we would tie into theirs, but it's too small. It's only a 2-inch line versus, I think we're gonna go for something larger for these to go the other way. So this one already tied in a few years ago back into Carriage Trace and through an easement back here.
And will there be a need for remediation for that space? No? Okay.
We'll haul it out in the same way any other unsuitable soils would be.
Okay, thank you.
So a question for Hannah. Is, so this is under the zoning ordinance for the office district O that says, just for the benefit of those at home, that the office district is designed to accommodate uses such as offices, banks, and personal services which can serve as transitional areas between residential and commercial districts, and to provide a transition between major thoroughfares and residential districts. So in the packet here, you've excluded a number of potential uses. I'm just curious why we didn't exclude some of the others, if there was a reason for it. Things like the schools, churches,
Sure. So the exclusion of uses was a condition offered by the applicant, so they offered that list of uses. That wasn't dictated by us. I think the idea and our feeling too is that the ones that they are excluding are those that are more intensive and might be more impactful to the surrounding residential. To the specific uses, I'm sure that applicant could speak more to it, but that was thoffered as their conditions rather than asked by us.
So I'm looking at things like the health clubs, recreational facilities, et cetera, that could be open 24/7, 365, and what impact that might have on the surrounding residential area. Yet those weren't excluded from that list. I understand we're targeting it for, medical offices, at least in Building 1, but is that a potential problem for the surrounding residential area?
Yeah.
For some of the ones that were not excluded?
Yeah, I can let them speak a little more to it. I will say, they are also limited by the parking that they have on site. So some of those uses that would require a large amount of parking, their site plan is going to have to meet the standards. And that likely could eliminate some of those higher parking requirement uses as well. And knowing that one will be a medical office building, for them to be on the same property, they are intended to be consistent in use, so it couldn't be something that is substantially different from a medical office building. It has to be compatible to be on the same property, but I don't know if you want to add about, if that's okay.
A few of them that you mentioned are special uses, so they would have to be additionally approved through.
Well, so are some of the ones that you excluded.
Sure, yeah, and then most of them that we, like places of worship, colleges, universities, technical training schools, simply not enough parking. So they are almost self-excluded, so we didn't feel like there was a need to exclude those again, kind of a freebie. But yeah, there are some other ones, a recreation facility, a private recreation facility is a specific special use. We're not planning to put one here, specifically because, the property can be better served as a professional office or a medical use from a leasing standpoint. So a lot of these things are excluded in that way as well. But yeah, the special use piece would keep anything that you guys wouldn't like or the surrounding neighbors would not like, keep those off of this property as well.
And did I understand that when somebody asked if you managed to find, if each of those buildings contains two tenants, you managed to find the other two tenants, that you would accelerate that timeline and build those buildings concurrently?
Sure. Yeah, I mean, it only makes sense construction-wise and timing, cost, everything, because we'd be planning to use the same materials, the same type of building, same contractors to install it. So if we did it separately, it's only going to be based on an extenuating circumstance.
Okay.
So that's what we're doing that.
Thank you. Any other questions for the developer? Other than that, I'll be looking for a motion and a second on the two items that we have before us. Councilmember Hanson.
Mr. Mayor, I'd like to make a motion to approve the first reading of the ordinance to amend the official zoning map of the city of South Lyon by conditionally rezoning the 3.73 acre parcel commonly known as 26800 Pontiac Trail, parcel number 21-17-301-030 from R1A, one family residential, to O, office district.
I'll second.
A motion and a second. Is there any further discussion? Deputy Clerk Piper, if you'll lead us in a roll call vote for that?
Yes.
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 Yes. Thank you. Just go ahead. Councilmember Hanson?
Mr. Mayor, I'd like to make a motion to approve the conditional rezoning concept plan dated April 19th, 2024, conditioned upon, 1, City Council approval of the conditional rezoning and conditional rezoning agreement. 2, City Council's acceptance of the applicant's voluntary offered conditions as outlined in the conditional rezoning amendment. 3, submission of the site plan and approval of the site plan in conformance with the concept plan attached at Exhibit B to the conditional rezoning agreement by the City Planning Commission and in accordance with the city's zoning ordinance, Chapter 102, Article XV of the City Code Site Plan Review and all other applicable ordinances, standards, rules, and regulations. Number 4, approval and recording of the cross-access and shared use easements for access drives and utilities. 5, rezoning is subject to review and approval of the conditional rezoning agreement by the city's engineer, planner, and attorney. And finally, number 6, review and approval from other applicable consultants, departments, and agencies of the site plan.
Support?
Sir, who was that? Councilmember Doe, thank you. I have a motion and a second. Deputy Clerk Piper, if you'll lead us in a roll call vote. I'm sorry, wait a minute. Any further discussion? No, if you'll lead us in a roll call vote.
Yes.
Yes.
Dilg?
Yes.
Mosier?
Yes.
Kibble?
Yes.
Kurtzwell?
Yes.
And Kennedy.
Yes,
All passed.
thank you. Thank you very much. Thank you.
Welcome.
Moving on to discussion of the budget. Do we have any budget-related questions this evening?
That fire engine's coming in easier.
Okay. Moving on to public comment. Okay, we'll close public comment. And we'll move on to the manager's report.
Just a few items tonight. The trail project by Patriot Concrete is continuing their work. It's going to be installing footings and putting up the repair wall along the trail just north of 10 Mile. The road commission projects are still on track for construction. That includes the resurfacing of Pontiac Trail from Silver Lake Road to the railroad track south, just and our border of where we're going to be having work done in 2026. The Martindale Road paving between 10 and 11 Mile roads, and also 11 Mile between Pontiac Trail and Milford Road. Last Thursday, we had our second public informational meeting regarding the Brookfield and Eagles Point subdivision paving project. We had about 30 individuals from the subdivisions come in. Everybody was extremely happy regarding the paving project, and they are looking forward to that construction taking place. The Eagles Point subdivision will begin within the next couple weeks, and the Brookfield paving project will begin after 4th of July. I want to comment regarding the grant discussion regarding the funding that came before us tonight from Katie Michalski from Melissa Slotkin's office of approximately $950,000. Since December of last year, the city has been the recipient of $1.7 million in grants. And that includes that fire truck. That includes $420,000 for the lead inspection of the water lines, the $300,000 for volunteer park, as well as the $900 that was announced tonight by the police chief also. So that's $1.7 million. So the staff will continue to look for funding, and they've been very diligent on doing that and filling out a lot of the applications that have been going for us. We don't get them all, but it's proven that the work that they're doing is paying off in a big way for all of us. So I'll be happy to answer any questions that anyone may have tonight.
Well, as they say, Paul, you always miss 100% of the shots you don't take, so congratulations for taking the shots that you and the support people from City Hall do take, the police department, fire department, et cetera, because every bit helps the citizens of this community, so certainly appreciate that. Any questions for the city manager? Councilmember Kurtzwall.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. 2 points. The first one is, and I'm not quite sure where council stands on it, but I would like to suggest that we take a look at drafting and approving a wetlands protection ordinance. Again, we have an issue coming up dealing with a wetland. Doesn't seem like it is as complicated as it was with Westlake, the Westlake project. But we really do not have a wetland protection ordinance in place, and this might be a good time to think about doing it. We do have a lot of property in the city under control of HOAs where wetlands exist, and you'd want to make sure that decisions of the homeowners don't impact the overall projects that we have with respect to wetland protection. So I would like to just throw it out there, if council is agreeable or amenable to that, is maybe take a look at some of these wetland protections. Shouldn't be a difficult ordinance to draft, I wouldn't think. I mean, you've got Bloomfield with all their ordinances for wetlands. You have wetlands over in Brighton. You have wetlands down in Florida. I'm sure there's a host of ordinances down there that you can template this ordinance. So I would just like to get that out there. Additionally, Paul, I wanted to know, have you had an opportunity to speak with the Oakland County Emergency Management on the issue that we had last year when the storms came through, and there was the discussion about their timing of the strength of the storm that was needed to set off those warning signals?
We haven't had any additional discussions since our preliminary discussions with them, but that doesn't mean that our staff or team won't continue to do that, and making that recommendation will make that happen.
Okay, thank you.
Councilmember Hanson.
Echoing what my colleague has actually brought up, being a member of the Huron River Watershed Council, if that does go through and we are members, they actually do have materials as well as provide guidance in writing such a wetland related ordinance. So, I know that was in the budget. Once we are members, I think that we could definitely tap them for maybe some cost savings, as well as the appropriate language to take it off of our plates entirely. So.
Councilmember Dilg.
Thank you. I brought this up before, and I want to kind of explain what my thoughts are around this. It's a very simple suggestion or change. I was out a few weeks ago, and I was approached by someone who said that they were very excited to come to City Council for the very first time because they wanted to talk about something that was on the agenda. The thing that was on the agenda was on the consent agenda, and the general public, I don't believe, understands exactly the difference between a regular agenda and a consent agenda. And by the time that person got to speak, the information on the consent agenda was already approved. I know we used to not even have a consent agenda, so I'm just asking, I think it's the easy suggestion, is if there is any way that we can have public comment come before the consent agenda. Maybe that will happen once a year, but I just am for the opportunity to, I want the public to have every opportunity to address us on things that are of interest to them. And yes, they could email us ahead of time and ask us to take something off the consent agenda. But I don't think that that a lot of residents necessarily know that they would have to do something like that. That would take a lot of education. So I don't know if, I just don't understand the reason that we've had this discussion offline. I don't understand the concern to not do that, I guess. I'm just wondering why not do something like that, to give the public more of an opportunity if they do want to address something that's on the consent agenda, so that we know maybe we should take something off and discuss it further.
Well, council can decide if they want to change the order of the agenda. The mayor, and we added this basically at my request 6 years ago to take off items that are routine in nature.
For sure.
They were only put on there and routine in nature because they were already vetted through departments, vetted through procedures. And even if someone coming to speak at the public, time frame, and the item that came before that particular day, we had met with individuals regarding that particular subject. We talked about it. And if you want to change that, you certainly can. The whole reason, and I'll just reiterate, the reason that we have the consent agenda item is to prevent it being on a new business and just every item being discussed, lengthening the meeting, everybody saying, yeah, let's vote for that. Oh, I like that. Oh, that's really good. And every single person going through the process, when it can be just with one quick motion and getting to the more important issues.
But that can still be done if you do public comment ahead of that, right? All of that would still happen, right?
Yes. What
Okay.
I was trying to say is we try not to put anything on there that hasn't already been vetted. If there is something that, the public wants to speak on, they can obviously still speak at that to the public. And any item that's come up on consent agenda that that's the council's already voted on and they want to see addressed and they want to have discussed, we've met with those individuals to talk to make sure that they are, in fact, we are in fact looking at what the items that they want to address. But if council wants to make that change based upon the agenda, then you're more than welcome to, make that change. And we just don't make a change just for the sake of making the change. There has to be a good reason. If it's working, why fix it? But if there's good enough reason to change it, then council certainly should be doing that. I agree.
As the person who runs the meeting, I prefer it the way it is because that's all the perfunctory steps that we take care of right up front. If they had contacted you and they wanted that off of there, you weren't going to be here, you certainly could contact another council member who would remove it for discussion. So-
Right, but they don't
so
necessarily know to do that.
Then all they need to do is watch the video. That's how the meeting works, okay?
I
You
can't
take
im-
care
I
of
can't
all the
im- I
mundane,
cannot understand
all the
how this
perfunctory
could be a
steps
problem.
ahead of time.
I can't even understand how this could be a concern. It is not changing anything. The consent agenda will still exist. It just gives the public a little bit more of an opportunity to address something before we vote on it. That's all.
Councilmember Kurtzwell?
Well, I think most communities operate with a consent agenda. In fact, I think South Lyon was kind of one of the last communities I had looked at that didn't have a consent agenda. And it clearly has helped move the meetings along. I think we don't allow the public to come up during our discussions of unfinished business or new business. We don't allow them to comment on any of these items. But we're making a special exception for the consent agenda. Allowing somebody to come in. If they want to talk about something on the consent agenda, they can comment, public comment section. If what they're saying has an impact, then somebody can always contact the mayor at the meeting and maybe bring it back up to discussion about a certain item, and we can either motion to withdraw our vote, there are other I see the city attorney nodding her head. There are Robert's Rules of Procedure that would allow council to go into that decision and bring it back up for a vote if what somebody's saying is impactful. But I don't know. I don't understand. To me, I'm a process kind of person, and I see where there's two opportunities for people to comment, and you got to move the meetings along. And
But I'm not asking for the consent agenda to go away. All I'm saying is, if you have public comment, they can speak on any of these things on the agenda during this public comment. If you keep public comment here, they are not able to speak on anything on the consent agenda prior to us voting on it.
And why is that a problem?
Because that's why people come to speak, so that they can have some kind of effect on what we are voting on.
But there is a process in Robert's Rules of Order to rescind that decision.
But why go through that process instead of just letting the public speak before we vote on anything? Why not?
Why would we change the process for the one-off situation?
It's not for the one-off situation. It's so that people have the opportunity to talk before we vote on anything. I cannot imagine how people could be against that. I can't understand it.
We're not against it.
You
still-
are against it. You're
No.
against moving public comment before the consent agenda.
No,
Okay,
no,
wait,
well,
if we could, please. Okay.
All right. I'm
Concerns have been made.
done. I'm done
Okay.
with it.
Any other comments for the city manager? Move on to city council comments. And Councilmember Kurtzwell, we'll start with you.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I do want to let everybody know that Concerts in the Park will be coming up in June. We have a fabulous, fabulous lineup. I will let everyone know that I will be the host on June 21st, so right out the gate. And I would encourage all of my colleagues on city council to please take a night. And the public loves having us there. It's great to be out there, and I can hardly wait for June 21st. The additional item I just want to bring up real quick is I wanted to say about the pollinator gardens, which I should have brought up. There's also an opportunity when you are setting up these pollinator gardens to make sure that the bees are able to collect their nectar during the evenings. Well, that's a little strange. Yes, it's 24 hours a day that bees should be able to do it. And there are actually plants that open up their blooms. The moon plant, 4 o'clock alba, mock orange shrubs, which open up their blooms, jasmine does, in the early evenings that allow bees to continue to collect nectar in the evening. So this could be a 24-hour buffet. So anyway, just wanted to add that. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Councilmember. Councilmember Kivel.
Well, I just wanted to talk about the car show. I mean, it's you can bank on it. I mean, it's always great product. People are happy. It was a wonderful evening. There was no real hassle with the neighbors that felt like they got bashed around. So all that was good. So that's really all I've got. Thanks.
Thank you, Councilmember. Councilmember Dilg.
I have nothing. Thank you.
Councilmember Mosier.
Just looking forward to the food truck rally this weekend at the farmer's market. The market has been going very, very well, too, so thank you to Nate for that. Good job with that stuff. That's all I got.
Thank you. Councilmember Hanson.
With allergies in full swing for me, I'll keep it brief. I had the pleasure of touring the under construction new Indian restaurant / grocery last week, and had a great conversation with the owner, who's really excited to be here in South Lyon, and he's very much counting the days until he can open up his doors. It'll be a great addition to the city. It's kind of going to be like a fast kind of carryout, kind of like Qdoba on one side, and then on the other side, it's going to be a full-service grocery, which would be great for the north end of the city to have that kind of a resource for residents, especially with all the neighborhoods in the area. So I'm very excited to see this open. He's hoping July, but I'll be one of the first folks lined up. I'm pretty excited. So that's all, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, Councilmember. Councilmember Bogert.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Last Monday, Mayor Kennedy, Commissioner Weipert, and other dignitaries attended a breakfast and ceremony put on by South Lyon Area Youth Assistance to recognize 93 students for their contribution to our community through volunteering. I'd like to congratulate everyone who was acknowledged. I had the opportunity to attend the Memorial Day parade and ceremony. It was well executed, and it was nice to see the community turnout. And I think it was wonderful that Dana Johnson was recognized for her efforts in coordinating the event in past years. And then finally, I forgot to acknowledge Fire Marshal Monahan for coordinating the open house for police and fire. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilmember Bogert. Just to follow up with Councilmember Bogert, just a couple of notes this evening. I want to thank Kelly Fehrenbaker and her volunteers, the American Legion, South Lyon VFW, and the great folks from Phillips Funeral Home for organizing a great Memorial Day parade and for conducting a wonderful Memorial Day ceremony at the South Lyon Cemetery to honor our veterans who made the ultimate sacrifice for the freedoms we enjoy today. Also want to thank Rich Perry and Steve Kukkonen from the South Lyon Cable Commission for capturing the day's events and producing the videos for our residents. And finally, I want to remind everyone that the free South Lyon Book Exchange takes place this week. So if you have some books you've read and no longer want, you can drop them off at the Freight House in the Historic Village on Friday from 3 to 8 or Saturday from 10 to noon. And then on Saturday from noon till 4 and Sunday from noon until 3, you can stop by the Freight House, pick up some new reading material, all for free. It's a great way to get some new summer reading material. And with that, I'll look for a motion and a second to adjourn. Councilmember Kurtzwell.
Move to adjourn.
Second.
Thank you very much. See you in a couple weeks.